This is our vote of confidence for all the work you do. This $2 million.
Mayor Olivia Chow announcing to about 150 organizers in Toronto's festival scene that the city is going to help out with the sky-high costs required to host large-scale street parties. The city is committing $2.1 million to help fund public safety aspects of festivals, whether that's planning, police manpower, or hostile vehicle mitigation measures.
We come together to celebrate each other. And by gosh, if we have to curtail our activities because of fear, absolutely not. That's not who we are as a city.
Last month in Vancouver, a man drove a car into the Lapu-Lapu Filipino Festival, killing 11 people and injuring dozens more. The incident sending shockwaves around the country and putting a spotlight on festival security.
Of course, we want our events to be as safe as possible, but we're working within limited budgets that have already been set for this calendar year.
It's not cheap to shut down a street and let people safely and freely walk around. Hostile vehicle mitigation measures can cost tens of thousands of dollars, and add to that, money spent on police.
More than 10% of the total budget of the festival itself, and that's only manpower, not the barricades. That's if we go that, and then we'll go involved.
2 months ago, the city doled out $2.65 million to 64 festivals who were struggling financially. Applications for the new money will open on June 16th.
You have to be an incorporated not-for-profit with a track record of running an event in Toronto, and eligible expenses relate to core security costs.
In addition to the security funding, the city announced a $100,000 seed grant for the creation of a festival association, which could include top event organizers and local BIA members. Last year, Toronto's major festivals had a roughly $1.6 billion economic impact. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
The inherent treaty rights.
At a news conference inside Queen's Park, Indigenous leaders send a message about Bill 5, clearly echoing one of Premier Doug Ford's favorite slogans.
First Nation land is not for sale.
Their main critique of the legislation, that in the government's rush to get things built faster, it's trampling all over Indigenous rights.
With Bill 5, the government moves at lightning speed when it suits industry, but drags its feet when it comes to honoring its obligation to First Nations.
There's also a warning of the potential for a repeat of the Idle No More blockades that targeted Stephen Harper's federal government because of opposition to Bill 5 among First Nations youth.
They are prepared to take action. And that is something that Doug Ford needs to be aware of.
What does Ford think of the pushback?
Well, there's opposition with the radical environmentalists, not everyone else. People want jobs. They want to create wealth and opportunity and prosperity.
The government says its intent with Bill 5 is to strengthen the economy against U.S. tariffs by slashing red tape so that projects like mines, highways, and power plants get built more quickly. Grand Chief Alvin Fiddler warns the government actually risks slowing things down.
And if this bill, in its current form, goes through, that is where we're heading. There will be conflict on the ground.
What might that conflict look like?
Anything and everything that will make this government listen to us.
We can continue to work in good faith with First Nation leaders to strengthen the bill, to get it right. We're open to making those improvements to the bill. We already have made some, but I think there's some more work to do.
Bill 5 would give Cabinet the power to create special economic zones where companies and projects could be exempt from provincial laws. That has First Nations leaders particularly concerned.
Bill 5 doesn't protect Ontario. It protects corporate interests and short-term profits at the expense of our future generations.
While Ford's ministers say they're willing to amend the bill, they're not saying what specific changes they're prepared to make. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
This year, you have to show your TTC student card every time you get on the TTC.
What were once seen as pieces of paper that got you from A to B might now be viewed by some as relics of nostalgia.
Natural moves on TTC, got a good thing going.
Tickets, day passes, tokens, and monthly passes that had hundreds of different styles of art, font, and were made up of various types of material. Perhaps they evoke memories from that time period and the ways Toronto is ever changing. Soon, these analog ways of boarding a subway or a streetcar will remain in the past. Customers will have to use cash, credit or debit cards, or Presto.
As someone who has a small collection of older fare media. It's sad to see them go, and it'll be interesting to see how long it takes between the point which they're no longer accepted and when all of the physical machinery that used to deal with them disappears from the system.
Starting June 1st, the TTC will no longer be accepting tickets, tokens, or day passes as a form of payment anymore. That deadline has already been extended to give customers the chance to use them up. The TTC says this is all part of its ongoing fare modernization.
I have some old transfers that are 100 years old, dating from the early days of the TTC, and they memorialize a time when the route structure was different. And of course, the TTC was much smaller. It was it was almost entirely within the old city of Toronto.
With the TTC being around for over a century, means of payments have seen a lot of changes. Here's a timeline. In 1921, legacy tickets were first introduced when the TTC began operating. In 1954, tokens were introduced with the opening of Canada's first subway.
Anyway, one of the extensions in the 60s, 70s era, they had a commemorative token strip with one token in it for the subway opening. So obviously, there will be no equivalent of this kind of souvenir in Presto days compared to that. But I'll live.
In 1980, the first paper Metro Pass was introduced, and it cost $26. The TTC began using magnetic stripe passes in 1990, and in 2005, Metro passes became transferable and photo ID was no longer required. In 2018, monthly TTC passes were replaced by monthly passes on Presto cards.
Once I've cut the Metro passes up, they get stored in these little containers. So these are all waiting to be seeded into the map.
Artist Nina Okens found a pretty unique way of putting her old passes to good use.
I had some Metro passes in 2018 and I thought, well, I either throw them away or I make some art out of them.
And Torontonians really took to that niche art. She ended up receiving thousands of passes as donations to keep it going.
I'm currently working on a 5-foot by 7-foot map of Toronto made entirely of Metro Passes pieces, and there are going to be markers on it that commemorate happy memories that people have had in Toronto.
In 2022, third-party retailers stopped selling TTC tickets. In 2023, third-party retailers stopped selling TTC tokens. And this year, the TTC will stop accepting legacy tickets, tokens, and day passes. The end of an era.
These are my favorites. I don't know if it's like a kinetic energy, but like they're like a passport, right? They're what we, when you hold them, you think of all the places you went with them. There's something meaningful in them. So I kind of feel like everyone's energy is a little bit in there. And so I'm trying to put that into the art.
Now, the TTC says less than 1% of customers are actually using tickets and tokens, but still, that doesn't mean they won't be missed. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto. The TTC.